Hello and welcome to this video. Today I picked up two Miniverse Make It Mini. The first one is the lifestyle one, the second one a food one. And this is their, I think, Series 1 lifestyle one. And I picked up the variety more of them. Actually, in total I picked up 4, but I'm going to open 2 in this video and then 2 in the next video. Just because they're a bit larger projects with more details, and it actually took me a while to make some of them. But I was curious how these kits would actually be. I've always seen people unbox them, and I wanted to see how the resin actually is, like, quality-wise, and what the kit has in it, and how nice and detailed the things are. So as I said, the first one that I'm going to open is this lifestyle one, and it comes with a little display shelf that is basically also the outside of the ball that it comes in. So you get a shelf that you click and place in this round shelf display, and then you have these two half almost barrel looking things that make the rest of the packaging. So the first item we have here is this. I think it's the resin. It looks like it since it has a warning label on the back, and it looks like we got salt water in this very adorable little jug, and it comes with a don't eat kind of warning label that has all the warnings that you shouldn't ingest this resin in it. And we also get a stand that you can click into the bottom of the display, and it makes it so it doesn't roll away. We also get some, I guess, tongs that are meant to help you with placing the items in the resin. But let's actually look which of the kits we got that has this. And it looks like we got a little tiny clownfish. This is so adorable. It comes in this little baggie that I guess should represent a baggie filled with water. And it's looking really nicely detailed, painted, and absolutely adorable. Next up we get some stones and coral. This coral is a translucent plastic, and it looks very adorable. It has a slight gradient to the tip. And the stones are a mix of a bluish grey and a pink. And it feels like they're sticking together a little bit. I wonder if they have any kind of binding agent or something. And lastly we have the tiny aquarium the fish is gonna live in. And of course we have all of the things that we could have gotten inside of the kit, and this lifestyle set comes with a lot of options for different styles of candles and then different styles of fish. I really love the tortoise here. I think it's a turtle actually, but yeah, that one is super cute. And we have the clownfish that I got. It looks like there's many different shapes of aquarium that you can get, and then we also get some plant options, and it looks like they're mostly succulents. And also one I think is really adorable is the one with the cat planter on the bottom. But let's actually make our clownfish aquarium. So the list of things that you can get has a instruction image thing on the back of them, and this is the one for the set. But let's actually make it. So I'm going to mainly follow the instructions, except for that I wanted to glue down my fish and the coral just so it wouldn't move around and make it easier for myself. And as you can see, my super glue exploded, so I needed to fix that a little bit. I just sprayed on some activator, and all the excess that flowed out I quickly wiped away with a Q-tip. And then to clean up the edges a little, I went in with my scraping tool, and I used that just to get off all the excess from the sides. The good thing about resin is that even if you scratch the plastic, it should turn pretty much clear on the parts if they're covered with the resin, so I wasn't really too worried about having any parts that would be more foggy or something. It's still a shame that it happened, but you know, things like that can always go wrong in crafts, and if you can fix them, then it is okay. We adapt and overcome as crafters. Next up, I wanted to place the stones, and I wanted to make sure that there would not be any air in them, because if I fill the rest of the resin in and there's air in, it would rise to the top. So I already took out a little bit of the resin, and I'm just going to like mix it in with the stones. They have some kind of sticky glue on them. I wonder if they actually dry over time, like if it's like a specific type of glue or binding agent that helps them. Or if they actually stay the sticky, kind of like kinetic sand a little bit. And all I'm doing is I'm using my toothpick, spreading around the resin, and then just making sure I get out all the air bubbles and pressing it in really like underneath the coral and the fish. And then I'm just topping it with resin as the instructions suggest. Now I already know what's going to happen if I cure this, but I'm going to show you a little bit. You can already see there's some air bubbles rising, and those are not actually any air bubbles that come from in between the stones, since I took care of that. Those are air bubbles that come from how the amount of resin that is used here is curing, but I'm going to show you and explain a bit more in the end once I'm going to reveal the fully cured piece. And next up I have this Series 1 food that I wanted to try out, so I got like Series 1 and Series 3 capsules in total. And it looks like this one also comes with a lot of instruction guides, the template, and we actually also get a display stand. This is like a little table that you can display like either as is, or it actually clicks into the base. And I found it's easiest to fully click it in while the tabletop is not on. You just put it into the bottom of the sphere and then put on the tabletop. That way you have a bit more of a grip while pushing it in, instead of trying to struggle with the bit looser tabletop. Next item that fell out is this like paper doily-esque thing, and we also get some tongs again, and this tiny little clip-in rounded part that is actually used to like make the sphere into like a presentation thing. It's meant to like fill in this little hole and just clip in there so you can lift off the display sphere. And then it looks like we are getting another tool, and this one is a tiny spoon, which looks very adorable. Now the baggies in these first kits are sometimes plastic, but this one actually has a like cut line so you can make it into a little shopping bag. I'm not going to do that since I'm not going to use them as like display pieces, but basically if you cut along the lines you can make a tiny plastic shopping bag out of these. And it looks like we get some banana slices. These are really nice and detailed and very adorable. And we get some whipped cream. I love the packaging of this, because even though if you use up the whipped cream, you are left with this like hard plastic container that you can use for other stuff. And it seems like we're getting one large whipped cream dollop that we're gonna place in or on our snack that we're gonna get. Next up, it looks like we have the glass, and this is a really pretty like almost flower shaped glass. So we are definitely getting some kind of dessert here. And it looks like we got some banana cream, so it must be the banana split kind of dessert, I think. And we get some crumbles. I love all the packaging designs with the like happy suns and all that on there. It's very consistent in like, so to speak, the branding of the universe, which I think is adorable. And it looks like these are kind of caramel crumbles. They honestly look like real caramel pieces and they look absolutely delicious. And per instructions we can look which ones we get, and it looks like in this series there's a lot of like desserts that are like this kind of like ice cream-esque, shake-esque, but we also could get a lot of pies that look absolutely gorgeous too. And it looks like the one we got is the banana pudding. So let's look in the back for the instructions, and I'm just gonna look at them, but I'm not gonna fully follow them. I'm going to make it in my own order because I want to like stack the pieces in a specific way so they're visible. Now for this resin bottle, I like that I sealed it, but I super struggled with opening it. I actually had to wipe my blade afterwards with some alcohol just to clean off all the resin. And then I just filled a little bit of the resin in, and I'm mixing it with the crumble one at a time just to cover the pieces, and I'm making sure to like spread them out on the edges. This resin is pretty opaque, so to see the pieces, the only pieces you will actually be able to see should be pushed more towards the outside of the glass, or else they will completely vanish. And that will be also mostly true with the banana, since it's a very light color. So it will not really pop out of the resin when it's completely covered. So I'm just going to fill up a little bit more resin after I finished putting in the crumble, mixing the resin with the banana pieces and pushing them more to the side. And I've actually used up all of them. Now, I've heard some people mention that for some kits they don't give enough resin, but I think if you like fill it up with all of the pieces that you get, like banana and maybe some of the crumble and stuff, it will fill it up more. But also sometimes, depending on the resin, I think they weighed it and it might just be that like it's stuck in the packaging or something. I'm adding up the whipped cream just on top with a little bit more resin, and I'm putting on a very thin coat of this banana split UV resin, and this is going to be like kind of somebody drizzled it over, and then I'm going to add some crumble to decorate it. And that's with my banana split, or banana pudding kind of dessert. I was actually not going to use the spoon in this, but you totally can. Like put the spoon inside and have it look like you're scooping out a thing. I really like the look of this without the spoon, so I'm just going to put it on the side, but I guess it's the decision of the people that make this project, so you can be really creative with this. Although you're a bit limited obviously with the amount of resin and all that, I think you really can like be experimental and like stack it as much as you want. And here you can see the results of both of them. So first of all, the fishbowl, and as you may notice, there is lots of air bubbles inside. And this is not because they rose from the bottom. This is because this amount of resin cures from the outside in. So you will have liquid parts of resin inside, and when the outside heats up, it like deforms a little bit, so to speak. And that causes like air bubbles itself to form. And it happens when you have this large amount of resin and it cures a bit too quickly. Now, even in sunlight, this can happen really easily, and it has nothing to do with the quality of the resin, but with how it is poured. This resin actually stayed super clear, it cured really well, it's not tacky or anything, but with these kinds of UV resins, you usually want it to cure evenly, so you want to pour tiny layers. Now, I did this on purpose. I knew what would happen. I had more than enough experience with this, and although the instruction mentioned to like put down the fish and the corals with a little bit of resin, there was no like description on that you maybe fill it half and half or something and cure it one layer or over the other. So I just followed them to show you all how like to not make this. Basically what you're supposed to do is you maybe fill it in like 3 increments and let each of them fully cure before you pour on the next layer, and that will prevent this from happening with the air bubbles and the top surface from caving in. Now, in and of itself, it is a pretty simple project, but the things you get for decoration, like the coral, the fish, and the jar, are actually pretty well made. There's no like major seams from the plastic casting and all that. And the fish is really well painted, like the lines are clean and all that, and it's very vibrant, as is the coral with the tiny gradient, and I think overall the quality of this is really well made, except for obviously the instruction with how to pour the resin. I'm still going to display this because I think it's adorable, but depending on how the air bubbles form, it may completely obstruct the view of the piece. Sadly, mine accumulated more around the fish, but you still can see it from a different angle in just a little bit. So I'm just going to say that maybe the coral made some air bubbles or something. Now, the one thing I really liked about this kit is that the resins came in dark plastic bottles, so it doesn't harden prematurely when you have it in the kit. Of course, it still can flash cure sometimes when it's stored too hot, but the heat you need for that is probably very unlikely to occur in stores or anything. But it may be a chance that that happens, but that is not really on the kit. On the other hand, what I'm not too impressed with is the resin safety. You may have these tiny extra booklets, but since they're in black and white and don't seem to be really interesting, like not really many people are gonna look at them, and it doesn't really mark anything that this is using real resin. These kits have an age limit, but they were available from ages 8 up. So in this case, people that don't know what resin is might buy them for their children, and they might think, ooh, this looks yummy. There's like this tiny label on the side of the resin bottles that tells you do not ingest it and all that. But I think they should like maybe put the label on top of the bottle cap, so you like have to remove it before you open the bottle, just to make sure that you are like warned that you shouldn't ingest it and actually not touch it. Even if this is some kind of skin safe UV resin, like nail art UV resin, touching it on the skin is not good, especially if you don't know how to properly clean it off, and then like maybe you eat something and you actually ingest it over that. Now, the label does give a warning that the resin might get hot, but there's nothing saying that if you like have resin on your fingers and you cure it on your fingers, because you think it will be easier to peel off, that it can actually burn into your skin. And there's no real mention of cleaning it off or visiting a doctor if you should ingest it. Now, they may all be in the black and white pamphlets, but honestly, there is no way that anybody, or like very few people, are gonna read them. Like, parents are gonna give them to their children, be like, hey, that's a cute little playset. The children are gonna make these projects, maybe not use the tongs, because there's no like specific like explanation that you shouldn't really touch it. They have it on their fingers, they grab onto everything, they like maybe want to try it in their mouth, even if it says do not ingest. Because the warning label is very small, and if you get these bottles, you're just gonna make the project. So I think there should be a more clear warning for parents and children, and maybe they should actually up the age a little bit on this. The only reason why I'm concerned is because with these kinds of kits, if something happens, it may cause the kit to not be sold in certain countries or for certain, like in certain shops and stuff. So it might take the availability away for the people that actually like want to test out resin and all that, because I think this is a great entry into working with UV resin and all the stuff you can do with it. And when I was actually in the store, I said that I'm grateful for them not putting it into the small children section, even though it is colorful and it is ages 8 and up. And they said they didn't know it was resin. The store I got this at is a craft store. They actually sell resin supplies, and they know about the dangers of like resin and stuff, but they didn't know this kit actually contained resin. I know there's a tiny thing that says that on the ball that says how much resin is in there per weight, and that is really the only thing that fully labels them as resin from the outside. So there's no other way to like really know that it contains it. But as I said before, sold as a craft kit, maybe for older age groups like 12 or 14 and up or so, it is a great entry level for introducing resin. Like, you don't have to sculpt anything, you get everything ready, all the projects seem to be super adorable. They are a bit more on the pricey side, but with all the custom bottles and all that, it is very understandable. And if you ever wanted to try out UV resin but didn't want to buy a full bottle and didn't know which resin you should get and just wanted to make one project to see if you liked it, this is great as entry. Of course, later on you can recreate these things with like clay and all that, but just as a pure beginner entry kind of thing, or if you just want an easier craft where you don't have to make all the extra bits and pieces, these are super great. Anyways, let me know in the comments down below, what were your thoughts on these kits? Did you actually pick them up? Did you try them? Which ones were your favorites and which ones were your least favorites? I know that some people are very concerned about the price, and I know that some projects don't really seem to warrant the pricing because there's less items in it. The ones I got had some really detailed pieces in them, a lot of resin and all that, so I think they are definitely worth the price for all the details and all the packaging and all that. That is custom, but I'm sure there's some projects out there that are way more simple that may not warrant this kind of cost.